Okay, good morning to all. Yes, welcome to the third Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference organized by the Faura Project, an organization formed by alumni, faculty, current students, and friends of the University of the Philippines, Manila, bound by a common cause, which is to revive, revitalize, and sustain the rich cultural and historical heritage of Ermita, particularly Faura Street and its environs. No? So in yesterday's opening program, our conference, we saw how local flora can be used as platform for promoting heritage. And of course, for the Faura Project, their advocacy lies primarily on the heritage of Calle Faura and its environs. So among the intangible heritage being addressed are festivities such as the Flores de Mayo, which ends with the Santa Cruzan, and for tangible heritage, particular built structures along the street of Calle Faura. So very much at the core of the Faura Project's advocacy, though, is the promotion of fellow heritage streets and their advocates, as shared experience can lead to the advancement of heritage street promotion and management. So without further ado, let me proceed now to the introduction of our speaker today, a heritage street promoter who has been tagged as a Carlos Celdran of Cebu. Okay, so let me do so, going to his CV. So our speaker graduated from Silliman University with a degree on political science and governance. As we understand why we see why he is currently working in the office of the Vice Mayor of Tanay in Central Visayas. Previously, he was Deputy Chapter Commander, the Order of Knights of Rizal in Tanay. He was also the archivist at one point of the Knights of Rizal in Cebu City. He was a member of the board of directors of the Galleon San Pedro Tours. And he has been a supervisor of he has supervised at one point the Cebu City Public Library. He was a research and development specialist in the Cultural and Historical Affairs Office in Cebu City. He was also a museum curator of Cebu City Museum. This was in 2017. And from 2012 to 2016, he was a tourism product development consultant of Lapu-Lapu City. So without further ado, we introduce to you our speaker, Mr. Balbino Pada Guerrero Jr., or who is commonly referred to as, or who actually prefers to be called Ka Bino. All right. So good morning, Ka Bino.
Ay, mayong buntag ka kanatong tanan.
Ayong buntag sad.
You know, with this pandemic, the most important word is unmute. With all these virtual meetings that we have, hopefully we could end this virtual meeting and see in person and shakes each other hands kasi hindi ako sanay sa mga virtual. Okay, good morning ladies. Naririnig niyo lang ako?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Madunggan ka na mo, loud and clear.
Ala, Bisaya po ka, ma'am?
Kabalo ko. I can speak Cebuano also, yes.
Okay. So, sandali, let me share my screen. Wait a minute. Sandali lang po. Ito talagang There you go. Share. Okay. Paiba-iba yung I change the title often, but many times as I create compose these slides. I stuck with colonoscope. This is my personal perspective of what Colon Street is all about, and this is a very personal view of what is Colon. So welcome to Cebu, of course. You could reach us through our world-class, world-renowned airport of the Mactan Cebu International Airport. Bagong-bago, and it's now gaining popularity among airports around the world as the best. So sabi nga namin dito sa Cebu, sana Manila rin. Two reminders, this is a walking tour. Kung ayaw mong maiwan, keep up. If you have a question, use the chat box. Take as many pictures as you can. Never talk to strangers. Baka mahulog ka sa Bisaya. Okay. Calle is a historical street downtown Cebu, in highly urbanized Cebu, the Central Visayas, Philippines. It is considered as the oldest street in the Philippines. It is also the shortest national road in the Philippines. It has only 1.17 kilometers based on Google Maps. It's started in west end is Cipadilla Street. Its east end is Burgos Street. Named after Cristobal Columbus, Colon was originally the site of fashionable shop, offices, movies, and once the heart of Cebu City shopping and business activity. What brought about Colon, the development of Colon is during the time of the early colonial period, when the Spanish authority had the colonial governments segmentize the city. So Parian is relegated to the Sanglis or the Chinese. Ciudad is relegated to the Europeos or the Spanish, while San Nicolas is for the natives. So if you are native, you go to San Nicolas, south of Cebu, south of Ciudad. If you are Sangli, you stay north of Ciudad, which is Parian. So this Chinese junk would stay in the waters of the Cebu Harbor, and they will be met by this type of ship called Casco. I lost my only Cebu picture of Casco. So this is full disclosure, this is a Manila picture. Anyway, this is the Estero de Parian, and up until the American period, where photography is available, or the late Spanish colonial period, the Riachuelo de Parian is still navigable. So ships would be docking somewhere here, and it goes to the sampan, or the Chinese junk would unload their cargo to the cascos, and the cascos could actually go into the city. The casco could actually go into the city. So they would be staying here, and they could the casco could go into the city's interior. So this is this is Colon Street right over here. And as you could see, the Estero de Parian goes all the way back to the sea. And here's another junction that goes back to Tinago. So this small area right over here is the Ciudad. This area is already San Nicolas, and this area is Parian. So here, the Cascos would pass by through here, this Riachuelo de Parian or Estero de Parian, and they will unload their cargoes at the back portion of this row of houses. So this is the Iglesia de San Juan Bautista or the demolished Parian Church, and that's how long originally Colon is. It's just from Burgos up to the now Junicio Hacosalim. So this is the original stretch of Old Colon. Here's a more recent map right over here. So this is Colon Street, and if you go beyond, this is what is now Junicio Hacosalim. This is already farmlands. You see some cultivated lands. That's it. But the Colon right now would further extend towards here up to this area. This is actually the Pahina River, Rio Paina, and this is already San Nicolas Park. So this row of houses are the one lining towards the river side or Riachuelo de Parian, and they have their houses are built with awnings. These awnings are extended towards the roadside, and until today you could still find this setup in Cebu City. Later I show you some Google Maps that, or if you go around the city, you could still see a semblance of this. So these became shop houses. These are the residence area, and underneath this, by the way, this awning in Cebuano is called tayamtam. Under this tayamtam are their businesses, their stores. So for a while, for the longest time, Parian was the main commercial center until Estero could no longer be navigable, that they moved towards the Lutaw side or close to the sea, to the waterfront area, which is now the Magallanes Street. Now, what are in the Magallanes? Magallanes is the main street for carbon market, the biggest market in Cebu, and towards the west, towards the east end of Magallanes is the Magellan's Cross. So the businesses moves closer to the port, and Parian district became residential. Most of the elite of Cebu, name a family in Cebu, they are usually rooted to Parian. Ellen Adarna who is now engaged to Direct Ramsey, her ancestor owns this house. This is the Bilia house. Up until now, this is owned by the family of Ellen Adarna. While this house right over here is owned by Side Bottom. Side Bottom um, Side Bottom was the consul for British, uh, uh, and she's the ambassador for, or consular officer for the Queen. And Side Bottom had a daughter that married to uh, Don Ramon Aboitis of the Aboitis group. So funny because the Cebuanos read her family name as CD Bottom. Uh, so in records, they will be in the Cebuanos would call them the CD Bottom house. This roof over here is the oldest remaining building in Cebu. Oldest dated building in Cebu. This is the 1730 Jesuit House. And this happens to be the house of the very first principal of the English high school, Alba. Alba is still one big family in Cebu, and Alba went into notoriety when she was in her advanced age. Tumanda siya, she became eccentric, she kept herself to herself. And she would walk around the town hiding underneath her umbrella. So the umbrella is half open so that it will not only cover her from the sun, but also cover her face. And people call her the Ungo sa Parian, witch. So a lot of until now, if you go to the Parian area, there are still urban legend about the witch of the Parian or the Ungo sa Parian. There's even a movie that was made following her story. Another event that would lead to the disruption, to disrupt the downtown, was the advent of the railway system that was built by the Americans in the early part of the 20th century. When the American colonial government occupied the Philippines, they built the railway system that goes all the way to the north up to Danao, and all the way to the south up to Argao. And this somewhat decluttered the residential area of Parian. So the rich and the affluent are now moving out of the city because there's already an available transportation that would bring them to the south, and the towns of the south, of the north and the south of Cebu are slowly developing because of this transportation. Before, if you want to go to south of Cebu, you have to use a sailboat. Now there's the railroad track predates the good highway that the Carosa could bring. So this is the railroad system, and this one goes to the north in Danao, and this one goes to the south up to Argao. And there's a rail system that goes all the way to Carbon. This is a supply route. This would bring the necessary coal By the way, carbon market is called carbon mark as such because of the heap of coal that are stockpiled near the sea. So with that, the city Colon as a residential area uh, slowly decayed. As you could see in this picture, there is somewhat dilapidation of the building. I could only suspect that some of these houses are already abandoned by its owner for a better, quieter residential area somewhere either in the uptown Cebu area or on the suburb, either north or south of Cebu. Colon, the oldest street in the Philippines. Yes, according to the National Historical Institute, as far as the National Historical Institute is concerned, Colon is the oldest street, and this is the marker. The marker says Colon Street, known as Parian, is the oldest street in the Philippines. It was built by the Spaniards who arrived in Cebu in 1565 on the fleet composed of vessels of San Pedro, San Pablo, San Juan, under the command of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. That's what the NHCP marker says about Colon. But national artist for literature, Dr. Risil Mojares, says no. In his book, in his article in Integración, the Urbanization of Cebu, in archival records of the Spanish colonial period, says that there were already streets even before the Spaniard came to the Philippines. Mojares asserts in the opening chapter of Calle Colon, a site to public memory, in commensical way, one could say that there are sufficient number of people pass, a street is made. Even when one requires that some premeditated design, apart from being prudent, it is what makes the path a street. It could be assumed that there were already streets in the country, populous center, when the Spaniard first came. Kung babalik ka, if we go back to, let me just go back to the map. Okay, here. This is when Miguel Lopez de Legazpi arrived. He built this Kota or the Port San Pedro. Just somewhere here is the Metropolitan Cebu Cathedral. This is the Basilica del Santo Niño. My personal view is that how could be that the oldest street is outside, because this river system, the estero system, acts as the intramuros of the ciudad, the invisible wall that separates ciudad from Parian and San Nicolas right over here. So how could be the oldest street is outside the city or Villa San Miguel that Miguel Lopez de Legazpi built? It was because of these American travel writers who earlier came to the Philippines. They were they were the ones who called the street as the oldest street in the Philippines. So here is William Boyce, United States and Colonies and Dependency Illustrated, the Travel and Investigation of Chicago Publisher in Colonial Position and Dependency of the United States, with 600 photographs of interesting peoples and scenes, by William Boyce. This is actually the title of the book. And here is the caption: Colon, the oldest street in the Philippines. Also, another writer, Finding the Worthwhile in the Orient, by Lucian Sweet Kirtland. Sorry, this is 1926, not so in his description of Colon, of Cebu City, he talks about the Augustinian Church, which is now the Basilica del Santo Niño. He talks about the port, and he also mentioned Colon, Calle Colon, the oldest of all the Spanish streets. So here's another, this is Domingo Escondrilla's map of Colon. The superimpose is mine to pinpoint the stretch of the entire Colon Street. So everything is in Colon. Now let me jump to the contemporary Colon that I know of. So you have supermarket and department store. Fairmart is now 138 Mall. Funny with this Fairmart because it's the only department store in Colon where, in the 80s that has an escalator. But the escalator is only going up. There's no other escalator that goes down. So you go up to the escalator and you go down, you scale down via the wide stairs. So me as a young kid would love to, with my cousins, we go to the Fairmart just to go to that second level via the escalator and then go down. We don't buy anything at Fairmart. We just go there for the escalator. And this is right at the corner of Osmeña. This is Osmeña Boulevard, and this is going to Colon Street. If you notice, this building has a circular building on top. This is actually the revolving restaurant on top of Luim building. Now, up until the 80s, the Luim building is the tallest building in Cebu. And here on the top floor, just underneath the communication tower, a radio broadcasting tower, is a restaurant that would offers you a 360 view of the city, and it is revolving. It moves on a very slow, it has a very slow movement so that it will not give you a seasickness, motion sickness. And if you order your food, your back is at the mountain, and you pay your bills, you are already facing the mountain. That's how slow the rotation is. Um, Gilmore is another institution in Colon. Until now, they are still there. They had been in Colon for uh, 70, 80 years. They are custom built tailor shop. So people in the early days, we don't really go to RTWs or ready to wear. We go to people goes to tailoring and have their custom built picture, custom built clothes in Gilmore. Of course, there's barber shop all over, shoe repair, theaters. There are there was once a research that listed all the theaters in Colon area. By the way, the Cebuano Colon has expanded as far as the Cebuano is concerned. Colon is not just that singular street with the 1.7 kilometer in length. Colon is to the Cebuanos is technically the downtown area. People would go to Santiago, people would go to Manalili, people would go to Carbon, even as far as Carbon. When you meet them in the streets, when you ask them, where are you going? They would say, I'm going to Colon. So Colon has expanded, not just the main street, but it became the name of the main downtown area of Cebu. Theaters. My very first experience, imagine I was 6 or 7 years old when I first entered into this Ultra Bistirama. Ultra Bistirama is a theater in Cebu that is the very first theater in Cebu that has the surround system. And we were watching Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And as Harrison Ford was being chased by that huge rock, I was crying because I thought that the stone that is chasing Harrison Ford would crush us because of the surround sound system of the theater. The whole theater was shaking because their seats are equipped with springs that whenever the sound would, whenever the sound effects or a strong, a thunder, whatever happens in the movie, the seat somewhat shake. Cinerama is an this one is this one building has 2 theaters. The comedy of the Vision Theater. A Vision Theater has nothing to do with Dante Alighieri, but it is a creation of another Dante. Dante Guidetti. He's an Italian. He settled in the Philippines in 1925 up until 1938. Initially settling in Manila, but eventually opened a studio in Calle, Colon, Mabini, at the corner of Colon and Mabini Street. His works can still be found in Cebu. Like the biggest of which is the Mausoleo of the Osmeñas. All of the Osmeñas except for the president, Don Sergio Osmeña, are here. These are the final resting place of the Osmeñas. Uh, and this one is the work of Dante in the Spanish section of the Careta Cemetery. It has a winged angel. Unfortunately for the angel, she lost her wing. This entire structure is made out of marble, and this is the signature of Godete. And right over here is the epitaph of the Alegrado family in their niche inside the Carcar church. But his biggest work is the initially the San Miguel Hotel, but eventually became the Vision Theater. And what really tickles the or distract the people of Cebu are these naked muses of the art on the facade of the building. The church authority is so scandalized that they move the procession of the Santo Niño. Normally passes by Vision Theater, but on the year of the opening in the 1930s, the church, the Agustinian, decided not to pass by Colon because they are so scandalized by these naked people on the facade of Colon's Vision's Theater. Through the effort of then Cebu City Mayor Alvin Garcia, Tabo sa Banay was created. This is Alvin Garcia's way of decluttering Colon with its sidewalk vendor. So one street was converted and pedestrianized. And the side of the streets were relegated to the sidewalk vendors selling there are on the north end is our fruit stand, but the most visited, why people visit, primary reason why people would visit Tabo sa Banay is what's inside the pot. Aha! Food galore. Street food at its best. Personally, I go to Tabo sa Banay to eat, but I don't recommend this to my foreign guests. You have to have a strong, of course, you have to have a strong stomach to stomach Philippine street food. The most wonderful flour Tabo sa Banay can offer, chicharon bulaklak. And this is the main course of the Tabo sa Banay. This is what they are famous for. Lansaw. Lansaw is a stew made out of beef. Well, the testicle of the bull. Some people call this soup number 5, and they said that this is an aphrodisiac. Maybe there are minors in this forum, so I will not go into details of the power of lansaw as far as aphrodisiac is concerned. Another thing that is associated with Tabo sa Banay is another favorite aphrodisiac of the Cebuano, nilarang bakasi, sour stew with ribs eel. This particular street food was featured in a Netflix original street food, and it sparks a long debate online because people outside Cebu are saying that this stew is not a street food. It is. It's made out of eel, and nilarang is a sour soup. Could be the closest you could get to nilarang is the sinigang. But there are several way of souring the soup. Some would use kamyas instead of sampalok, but the restaurant that I love to go to is they're using the tamarind seed. If you crack open the tamarind seed, there's a white flesh underneath, and that white flesh is mashed into pulp and mixed into the soup. It gives a distinct aroma. The bakasi by itself is a little bit, it has a distinct smell. That's why you have to drown it with spices and whatnot to mask the natural smell of the bakasi. Okay. The recent downfall of Colon is, personally, I thought for a while, for the longest while, I thought that the downfall of Colon was brought about by the opening of huge shopping center outside the downtown area. SM in the North Reclamation area and Ayala Center in the Cebu Business Park. These are kilometers away from the downtown. That was, most of the people would tell you, if you ask man of the street in Cebu what contributed to the downfall of Colon Street, they would tell you that it's because of the opening of the Ayala Center and SM. When Ayala and SM business in the downtown area went downward. I was wrong, or partly wrong. I came upon a study of motor vehicle registration. This study is published by JIBIC, Japan Bank of International Cooperation. They notice a steady spike of the ownership of vehicle in Cebu. This one is Cebu City. Cebu City has a steady climb from 1993 to 1999. This is somewhat the era that leads to the dip or the decline of Colon Street as the main commercial center. This is the entire Cebu province. This is the Metro Cebu area, Cebu City, Mandaue, Lapu-Lapu. So why these are important? Because these are also the bulk of the people that goes to Colon. So parking was I never experienced because I live in my 20 years my more than 20 years of living in Cebu. I haven't stayed more than 2 kilometers away from Cebu City, from Colon Street. So I move around. I move around one boarding house to another, renting several, and then my last apartment before the pandemic was situated south of Colon, about maybe 1 kilometer away from Colon. I never stayed more than 2 kilometers uh, from the downtown area. So I never experienced how difficult parking, because every time I go to Colon, I just walk. Every time I go to Colon, either I take the jeepney or so people who own car are complaining that it is very hard to park in Colon. So not just the development of Ayala and SM, but the spike of private vehicle ownership in Colon, in Cebu, contributed to the decline of Colon. The funky mayor of Cebu, now vice mayor, then mayor for 2 terms, Mike Rama, had envisioned a way of revitalizing, a grandiose way of revitalizing Colon. He called it the Colon Revitalization Program, which involves a multi-sectoral approach of bringing back Colon to its former glory. As early as July 2015, they received a green light from NCCA for a grant of 5 million intended for master plan study. But until this is the requirement of the part of the memorandum of agreement. This is the requirement. They have to do a memorandum of agreement issuance. I think Mayor Michael Rama failed to do this, that they were not able to get the grant of 5 million, courtesy of the office of Senator Pia Cayetano. They were not able to get this grant. I was then this is July of 2015, and then 2016 was election year. Mike Rama lost to Tomas Osmeña, and I was hired by Tomas Osmeña to join his government. I work at the initially at the Cultural and Historical Affairs Office, and my very first assignment was to represent Mayor Tammy Osmeña in the cultural summit that happens in Manila. I was was approached by people from NCCA, and they were asking that, oh, you know, we gave already, there's already a money. This is already 2016, October. So we said, oh, Cebu City is still interested in the 5 million grant. And these are the things that we do. They revise the MOA, they send it to me, and it was just impossible to accomplish in 2 months' time. It was already late October, so I only have 2 months to accomplish it. It was really, so the 5 million grant from NCCA for a study, for a comprehensive study of master plan of downtown revitalization for Gone with the Wind. But what they had been busy doing, Mike Karama instituted this, the Colon Night Market. For a certain period of time, they will open Colon Night Market at around 6 or thereabout p.m. 6 p.m. or thereabout. They will close, they will seal off Colon Street and then relegate it to the night market. Personally, I don't agree with it, because as a form of revitalizing Colon, because the night market only attracts people who are already colonized. They are already, these people are already there, are already the market of Colon. These are the CD, maybe C or D, E segment of the society. I mean, why you market Quiapo to the people who are going to Quiapo anyway? You go to Quiapo anyway. So these people doesn't need a marketing strategy, because they are there. They are already, they go to Colon in the morning. So you just extend the operational hour of Colon. It doesn't bring in new customers. It doesn't bring in the Ayala crowd, the call center crowd. They don't. They just extend. They are just selling Colon to the colonized. I mean, selling ice to the Eskimos. Problems yet to be solved. Of course, Colon is, as I mentioned, there used to be a river, but the river had shrunk, and now it's from a navigable river to a sewage canal. And every time there's a rain in Colon, flood would follow. One good thing about the flood in Colon is that it floods, 30 minutes of rain, boom, flooded. But when the rain stops, in less than 30 minutes, all the water is gone. Meaning that the problem is just the exit way of the water. So clear the exit way, then problem is solved. Snatching. Yes, I am an advocate of Colon. I am inviting people to love Colon, and I am also a victim of snatching. Mr. Mariano, I was in Colon. I was communicating with my, was using my iPad to communicate with my guests who doesn't have any mobile number, because he's using also is using we're actually communicating via Skype. So I have to use my iPad at that time, and it was grabbed from me. Uh, the yung masakit, hindi yung nanakawan ako ng ano, nanakawan ako ng iPad. Ang masakit is ako yung ako yung tagatawag ng tao. Ako yung nagsasabi ng tao na mahalin niyo ang Coron. Then ako yung naging biktima. There are displaced industry in Coron. Once upon a time, you would see a lot of typewriters in this portion. This is near this is the University of Cebu, and lining here are a lot of typists. I don't know, maybe some of you doesn't know anymore what a typewriter is. A typewriter is like is the predecessor of computer. Dito po linalagay ang papel at linalagyan ng ginagawa ng, so yung mga estudyante from the universities would ask people to have their report typewritten. Ngayon wala na ito, and there's there are industries that are already displaced because of they became obsolete. So there's a need to provide them with alternative work, so that they could still they could still enjoy what Coron has to offer. My personal contribution, I ran together with friends, I put up a company that runs Coron by night. It's a walking tour, and my walking tour was featured in the Jane's Walk, and I share my love for Coron. I share stories of Coron to the people in the hopes of converting more and more people to love Coron, because for most of the jaded Cebuano, Coron is just a place of transient. They just pass by Coron on their way to other destination. By the way, most of the jeepney routes of Cebu are gravitating towards Coron. Almost all, wherever you came from, there's always a jeep from Bulacau, Pardo, from Talamban, that from Guadalupe, that goes to Coron. So Coron is the center of the jeepney route system. So because personally, we must love Coron first, because before we could ask other to love Coron. In the same manner that we must love Quiapo first before we could ask other people to love Quiapo, or we must love Padre Faura first before we could ask other people to love Padre Faura. Daghang salamat, and please follow me on my social media accounts. Now I'm ready for your questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Bino, for that wonderful talk. As someone who would frequent Cebu City during my childhood, it's very interesting to learn more about the heritage of Calle. So thank you so much again, Bino. So right now, we will open the space for a short Q&A portion. So you may send your questions through the Zoom chat, or you can raise your hand so that I can unmute you. So actually, we already have one question that was messaged to me privately a while ago. So, hi, Sir Guerrero. In comparison to Calle Crisologo, which is also one of the most popular heritage streets in the Philippines, is Calle Colon as commercialized as Calle Crisologo? Has it also become a tourist spot? Thank you.
Well, if you put Calle Colon vis-a-vis Calle Crisologo, it would Colon would go pale in comparison. Napaka only this portion in my background could could somewhat compete Calle Crisologo, but this picture was taken what, at the turn of the century. Let me show you what this my filter looks like now. Allow me to bring you to Colon via Google Map. This is now the Calle Colon. No more of those no more of those structure in the picture that could compete Calle Crisologo. In the whole stretch of Colon, no more. I think this is the oldest building. This is the Republic News building. This is where the one of the old marker of the NHI. Nothing in Colon anymore. The charm of Colon, if we're talking as Calle Crisologo as comparison, the charm of Colon is only relegated to its memory. But as I told you, the Tayamtam, remember the awning here, it's still being replicated. Building tend to extend towards the road on the second floor, benefiting both ways. For the pedestrian, they have roof over their sidewalk. For the building, they have more floor area on the second floor. But in comparison with Calle Crisologo, no contest. Talo po ang Colon. But it as a destination, as a tourism site, it parang you would only appreciate Colon if you are with a guide on a walking tour. Not necessarily me. That's why I'm convincing other tour guides to do walking tour in Colon, because the story that Colon has is what makes Colon far more better.
Thank you so much, Bino, for that answer. So actually, the next question is kind of related to the first question. So are there plans to revitalize Calle Colon as a heritage street? Is there an organization or a government agency currently working on it? Thank you.
Of course, the vice mayor right now, Mike Rama, is the primarily the prime mover of Colon revitalization program. But as I've said, Mike Rama tends to occupy everything. So he lacks focus. That yung yung grant nga ng NCCA nawala eh. That was a very good start to do a master plan. There were suggestions. Let me bring back the map again. There were suggestions to how can we revitalize Colon. If you look at the map, if you okay, this is the map of a Google map of Colon. If you look at Colon Street on the street level, if you go around, wala ka nang makikitang bakante. No more room for improvement in Colon because all the street frontage had been occupied. But if you look, pag marunong kang maghanap, you could see some spots. Like this is a vacant area. This is a vacant area. That's another vacant area. There are proponents of how to bring back Colon to its glorious days is to put up mid-range condominium units here in this area that are bakante. This is just a parking area. How much a parking area could earn if you put up a condominium unit here, a medium rise condominium unit, targeting the middle class, the CB market. Of course, the people from the A market would not buy a condominium unit, would not live there. So if you could bring people with money to born, like the young professionals, the call center people to live in Colon, then you could have a steady stream of people who could afford a cup of Tam and Tams or Starbucks. By the way, there's already a Starbucks in Colon. That's a good sign. But these condominium units would attract other businesses to put up in Colon, so that it will lure back, it will bring back the glory, the former glory of what Colon has to offer. So, lagyan kasi according to Architect Maxwell Espina of the University of San Carlos, we allowed Colon to be relegated to the snatchers. We allowed Colon to be relegated to the people who pee on the streets. That's why the Colon started to stink. So let us bring more people. Let us bring more people to reside in Colon, and then this would help this would stop the spiral downward trend of Colon Street.
All right. So last call for questions. Okay, so if there are no more questions, then I think we can proceed to the next part of our program. So again, Bino, thank you so much for that wonderful session, and also to our audience for the active participation in today's webinar session. So of course, we would like to show our appreciation to you, Bino. So with that, I would like to present to you the Certificate of Appreciation prepared by the Faura Project. So let me just share my screen. So the Faura Project Incorporated, the Philippine Botanical Art Society, and the National Commission for Culture and the Arts presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Mr. Balbino Pada Guerrero Jr. for speaking on Calle, Colon, given this 11th day of May 2021 during the Faura Project's Flores de Mayo Festival 2021. Signed by Dr. Honey Libertine Achanzar-Labor, the Executive Director of the Faura Project Incorporated, and also the convener of the conference on celebrating 500 years of local flora. Also signed by Ms. Willa Famoso Tacan, the founder of Philippine Botanical Art Society. So thank you so much, Bino, for your session.
Before I end, I am inviting you all. If travel is available, pag nagbukas na to, pag nawala na to, you're all welcome to walk with me in Colon. But since I'm already in the other island, give me advance notice, like a month's notice. Pag gusto nyo pumunta ng Colon, kasi magpa-file pa ako ng leave. So I'm already in Negros. So let's arrange that and let's have a real walk in Colon wherein you could actually, kasi pwede nating i-present the stories and the sights. You should smell Colon.
Thank you so much po. For sure po, ikaw po yung una namin yung contact when we go to Calle. So, to close our event, let's again hear from the webinar convener, Dr. Honey Levy Achanzar-Labor.
Yes, maraming salamat. Daghang salamat kaayo, Bino, no? Your presentation today was actually beyond what we expected. No? It was most comprehensive. No? If our guests came in on time today, they would have seen that you practically covered even 3 Hispanic